held up my arms during those darker times. They would see me, and they would give me the collective stink eye if I walked out. It would have been their right. I owed them this. A long line of young ministry students formed at the front of the stage, eager to pounce on any pitiful parent who dared come forward. This was a zealous bunch, too. They would pray loud, sweaty prayers. I dragged myself forward, choosing a tall Canadian man in a brown businesslike sweater. I had heard him talk earlier, and he seemed safe enough, the kind who might not yell too much when talking with the Almighty. "My son, Jack, has severe autism," I told him beneath the cover of ringing synthesizers. "He's 7, and he can't speak, and... yeah." I stopped there to brace myself for an explosion of fervent perspiration, but it never came. Instead, my Canadian closed his eyes and started to whisper. I had to lean in to hear. He sounded gentle and confident, a prince next to his father's throne. And then it happened. He said the word breakthrough, and I crumbled into myself, weeping. Breakthrough. That word, it was all I had asked for. Such a small request, it seemed, from the God who could hold galaxies in his fingertips and make seas stand with his breath. I hadn't prayed for anything as big as that. Just a little breakthrough. There was a wall between me and my son, and I wanted a hole punched through it. For years, my wife and I had begged God to fix our son's autism, and at first we thought he would do it. We had both grown up in God-soaked environments. I was a minister's son in the Bible Belt, surrounded by missionaries who had seen miracles firsthand. Sarah was a preacher's daughter in rural Minnesota, full of the faith and confidence that can only come from one who has eavesdropped on counseling sessions that morphed into exorcisms in her own living room. God had healed my mom from severe back problems and had healed Sarah's mom from polio. Faith was in our blood. We carried those stories into adulthood, more or less convinced that God was capable of anything. But thus far, he hadn't answered our most desperate prayer. Jack was still nonverbal. He had grown some, learning a few new skills here and there, but the developmental gap between him and his peers was widening, not shrinking. At age 3, the diagnosis had read moderate autism. At 7, it read severe. The truth was settling in on me. Our prayers weren't working. Jack's condition was getting worse. I wanted to get mad at God, but I didn't have the theological conviction to make it stick. Frankly, I wasn't sure what God's role was in Jack's condition. Certainly, I believed that all things, even hard things, work together for God to those who love God. Romans chapter 8, verse 28. But did that mean he caused all the hard things in the first place? I didn't think so. In my mind, that was just how redemption worked. God made beauty from ashes, but the ashes themselves didn't necessarily flow from his hand. Thus, it seemed to me I had 2 choices. I could either live in perpetual sadness or lower my level of hope. For ages, I had embraced the first option, but it was costly. My personality had changed during my walk through depression, the 4th stage of grief. I had become distant and numb, and my family was suffering because of it. I had to pull out of that for the sake of us all. The only option left, then, was for me to lower my expectations and embrace my new normal in hopes that God might salvage something out of it. It was a weak embrace of Romans chapter 8, verse 28, but an embrace nonetheless. From there, I resigned myself to minimizing disappointment. I started asking God for an easier, more realistic breakthrough. Jack would never converse, I decided, but he might at least learn to bathe himself with soap and shampoo. And little by little, the new posture worked. Soon I found I had come to terms with Jack's condition. We were playing together and laughing together like never before, even on bad days, when he might be in the middle of